Hi YouTube, Darth here. I've been playing the Star Wars Battlefront pretty steady since release, and I honestly still don't know where to start with this review. As you might be able to tell, I've loved the Star Wars franchise for quite some time. So I desperately wanted to like this game, and the more I played, I was hoping the more I would get, understand, or to be perfectly honest, start liking the game. Well, I'm about 20 hours into the game, and I'm still waiting. This is about the same amount of time I spent with the beta, and I have roughly the same feelings that I had at the start of the beta. So today I'm going to talk about what this game gets right and what I think is seriously lacking. Keep in mind as I talk today, I'm talking from the perspective of having played exclusively on PC and in multiplayer settings. DICE set out to achieve the most authentic Star Wars game that has ever been made, and in that respect they succeeded wildly. I can honestly say that the planet Endor, as represented in the game, is easily the most gorgeous forest map and probably the most amazingly gorgeous multiplayer map I have ever played in the last 25 years of gaming. Battlefront as a whole takes the bar that DICE set for gaming graphics with Battlefield 3 and completely blows it out of the water. As for the audio experience, there's no surprises here. DICE had access to all the music, sound effects, and props of the original Star Wars trilogy. It's been expertly applied here and it fits the game really well, music comes in when it's needed and fades out in a smooth manner. If you're looking for a game that feels more like a cinematic experience, then this is your game, for sure. If you're looking for more than that, well, hold off for the rest of the review. For Battlefield Hardline, I made a This Is Not a Beta video, and I didn't do one this time around because I wanted to wait and see what DICE did with Star Wars Battlefront. With Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline, what we were advertised as betas were really just limited time marketing demos. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of beta requested changes from the community did make it into the final Star Wars Battlefront game. Walker Assault feels more balanced on Hoth, certain weapons were tweaked, heroes don't degrade in health over time, and there were some small changes as well. Overall, I feel like we got more out of DICE in the beta than previously, but pretty much what you saw was what you're getting in the full game. And I wasn't super keen on the beta, so let's talk about what's not so great about the full game. First up is balance, and I'm pretty sure I'm using that term in the lightest sense possible. I'm starting to see a trend here from DICE where games are, on release, surprisingly unpolished when it comes to balance. Weapon balance, team balancing, map balance, you name it. And I think a lot of this comes down to not enough eyes or community exposure ahead of time. When developers run an abbreviated beta, as DICE did in both terms of time and content, it's obvious that they learned some things, but not every lesson that needs to be known. And I've got to be honest here, this game has probably some of the worst gunplay balance I've ever seen from DICE at launch. Some decisions I can understand were made in the service of the target audience, the franchise, and others are just unbelievable. For example, it does not surprise me that the Hero Blaster, Han Solo's DL-44, which you got if you bought the deluxe version of the game, is literally the best gun in the game. Without a doubt, this weapon is the best, from both an in-game and statistically provable standpoint. Every shot out to 20 meters is a 2-shot body shot and a 1-shot headshot. No other weapon in the game is even remotely as good. Even at maximum range, it's better than almost all the blasters in the game, including the rifles. Make no mistake, if you bought the deluxe version of this game, you literally paid to win in this case. On the other hand, I ground my DL-44 out over 15 excruciating hours where I would consistently lose to anyone using this blaster. Anytime I died in one hit to a blaster, I knew exactly what happened. I honestly wasn't even surprised when it happened, and I didn't care the player was using the best gun in the game. It's the best gun in the game. You should be using it. For the most part, the blaster's time to kill in this game is extraordinarily long compared to the weapons of Battlefield 4 and in particular Battlefield Hardline. With the exception of the plethora of one-shot cards and pickups in the game, the grenades, the rocket launcher, homing shot, rifle cards, and others. That's not including the vehicles, turrets, and other player-driven hazards. You'll die frequently and in surprising ways, most of which feel cheap. And that's because in Star Wars Battlefront, the weapons that require the least skill to use do the most damage. So let's talk skill, and this is the part of my review where I take two stances. First, DICE knowingly made this game the way they did to appeal to their target audience. Shrinking the skill gap between players in the game means that more players can get in and have fun without being run over by more skilled players. This means that kids and adults who maybe like Star Wars but don't play tons of shooters or don't have time anymore can enjoy the cinematic experience of this game. And that's what this game strives to be more than anything, a cinematic experience. And the second part of my opinion on this matter is that having such a low skill gap means that there is nothing to achieve in this game outside of grinding unlocks. Players with better star cards and better weapons are going to top the leaderboards and are going to do generally better than those without. Luck plays a huge factor too as to whether or not you find a hero pickup, vehicle, or something else timely will make a big difference in how well you're doing in the game. Very little of this game is rooted in skill. That seems like it's as intended and I wouldn't expect it to change. So if you can't work on your own skills, what else is there to do? Now if you're like me and you're trying to absorb as much of this game as possible, you'll find that you've done everything in a very little amount of time. There are 9 game modes in Star Wars Battlefront and they take place across 4 different planets: Sullust, Hoth, Endor, and Tatooine. Although Endor is technically a moon, doesn't matter. In the beta, I was hopeful that this meant 36 unique experiences. In reality, this actually comes out to about 9 different maps. 10 if you count the skies above all these planets as being unique. Being honest here, it gets old quick. Every game of Walker Assault starts playing out pretty much the same way. Supremacy directs combat in a fairly linear fashion and apparently also has some pretty terrible spawns. Fighter Squadron is refreshingly different, but also suffers from the "yep, don't need to play that all night" problem of most of the game. In these big game modes, the dynamic gameplay that Battlefield 4 and Hardline offered is completely missing. The team play is more of a Zerg mentality, and the overall big game modes feel like a giant free-for-all. On the other hand, some of the smaller game modes are actually pretty fun. I've had the most fun with the Heroes vs. Villains game mode and Cargo. I think there's some great strategy and team play to be had with both of these modes. The individual players' contributions to the teamwork really make a big difference. Then there's Droid Run, which is probably the dumbest game concept ever, where only the last 30 seconds of the 10-minute game actually matter. As for unlocks, I'm 20 hours in and I've got every weapon in the game, and as far as star cards go, it comes down to personal preference. But for the most part, I've explored everything the game has to offer, particularly when it comes to game modes. And I've only played for 20 hours. What am I going to fill the rest with? I've got nearly 2,000 hours between Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. With Star Wars Battlefront's low skill gap and lack of content, I could never see playing Battlefront nearly as much. There's literally nothing for me to do to the same extent as Battlefield. I'll be impressed if I cross the 100-hour mark before all 5 expansions are out. I'm a bit exasperated by this too because I was really hoping to get into a deep, crunchy, delicious Star Wars experience. What I have is very pretty, but also very shallow. Not the kind of thing that espouses a long-term commitment. Overall, I think Star Wars Battlefront is probably one of the best Star Wars toys ever made. For $60 American, or $70 if you pay to win, you won't find anything that will get you this close to the cinematic experience. This game will definitely be riveting to Star Wars fans who are occasional gamers. If you care more about a balanced, deep, fun game than a cinematic experience, you'll probably be pretty disappointed, if not frustrated, at every turn. But here's the weird thing, I still find the game compelling. I love Star Wars, but this game frustrates the ever-living Sith out of me. But I keep playing, expecting to find the depth that it's clearly missing, expecting to find the fun that often eludes me. I wish it was as easy as pointing to technical faults like Battlefield 4 or balance problems like Hardline. Maybe with more content there will be something more to strive for, but I'm afraid what happens when the content treadmills run thin or run out entirely. Because there just isn't that much to this game otherwise. That's it for my video review, but how do you folks feel about Battlefront? Let me know in the comments below. This week is Thanksgiving here in the United States, so it'll be a little while before I can get regular content updates flowing again. But when I do, expect mostly Battlefield 4 with an occasional Battlefront video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.